The alarm screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Tae-young grabbed the nearest rail as the floor tilted beneath his feet. The transport vessel shook like a toy in the hands of an angry child. Engine failure! Engine failure! The ship's computer voice was calm, but the words made everyone panic. Tae-young moved through the chaos with steady steps. His military training kicked in. Around him, the alien crew members were screaming. Ambassador Velthar, the tall crystal-like being, was trying to reach the command center. Navigator Crick, small and insect-like, was frozen in fear near his station. Yuna, Tae-young called out. He spotted his friend and colleague across the bay. Dr. Yuna was holding onto a computer console, her face pale. He reached her just as another violent shake hit the ship. A piece of ceiling panel broke free. Tae-young pulled Yuna down and covered her with his body. The metal crashed where she had been standing seconds before. We're going down, Yuna said. Her voice was shaking. I know, Tae-young said.
Stay close to me. The ship hit atmosphere.
The hull began to heat up. Through the windows, Tae-young could see a purple sky. 2 suns burned bright against the strange colored clouds. This was not a friendly world. Security Chief Tharn, the massive armored warrior, was strapping himself into a crash seat. Humans, get secured! He shouted. Tae-young helped Yuna into a seat and locked her safety harness. Then he secured himself. The descent became rougher. The ship was spinning now. Through the windows, he saw forest and rock rushing up to meet them. Brace for impact. Ambassador Velthar's voice came through the speakers. The crash was violent. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Tae-young felt his body slam against the harness. The world spun in circles. Then everything went dark. When Tae-young opened his eyes, smoke filled the air. His head hurt. Blood ran down from a cut on his forehead. He wiped it away and looked around. The ship was tilted at a strange angle. Sparks flew from broken cables. Yuna? He released his harness and checked on her. She was unconscious but breathing. A nasty bruise was forming on her arm. Carefully, he freed her from the seat. Other survivors were emerging from the wreckage. Tharn was helping Ambassador Velthar stand up. The crystal being had cracks running through one arm. Navigator Crix was making high-pitched clicking sounds, his species' way of expressing extreme stress. Sound off, Tharn commanded. Who is alive? One by one, the crew called out. 8 had survived. 3 were badly hurt. The ship's medical officer was dead, killed by debris during the crash. Where are we? Ambassador Velthar asked. The ambassador pulled out a scanning device. After a moment, the crystal being's face showed horror. This is Vex 7, a Class 5 death world. Silence fell over the survivors. Everyone knew what that meant. Death worlds were places where most galactic species could not survive. They were too hot, too cold, too toxic, too dangerous. We need to assess our situation, Tae-young said calmly. He laid Yuna down gently on a flat surface and checked her injury more carefully. Our situation? Crix's voice was panicked. We are on a death world. The air is toxic. The radiation will kill us. We are doomed. Calm down, Tae-young said firmly. Panicking helps nobody. He stood and walked to the broken door. The seal was damaged. Air from outside was already mixing with the ship's atmosphere. Tae-young could smell it. Strange but not unpleasant. Like earth after rain, but with something else mixed in. The human is going outside, Velthar said in shock. Without a suit. The atmosphere will kill you. I need to see what we are dealing with, Tae-young said. He forced the door open wider and stepped out. The heat hit him first. It was hot like summer in the desert. The gravity felt heavier, too. His legs strained slightly with each step. But he could handle it. He took a careful breath. The air was thin but breathable. His lungs adapted after a few breaths. He looked around. They had crashed in a clearing surrounded by massive trees. The trees had dark purple bark and thick thorns. Strange bird-like creatures flew overhead, calling to each other. The purple sky stretched above, with 2 suns creating harsh shadows everywhere. Tae-young knelt and touched the ground. The soil was rocky but had some organic material mixed in. Not far away, he could hear running water. That was good. Very good. He walked back to the ship. The aliens were watching him through the door with amazement on their faces. You are alive, Ambassador Velthar said softly. The readings say the atmosphere should be toxic to carbon-based life. It's breathable, Tae-young reported. Hot and heavy, but we can manage. There is water nearby. We have trees for materials. This is not the worst place we could have crashed. Not the worst? Crick shook with fear. My scanner shows deadly predators, poisonous plants, and radiation levels above safe limits. Tharn was checking the ship's systems. Communication array is destroyed. Main power is failing. Life support will last maybe 3 days. The distress beacon has limited range. Rescue will take time. How long? Felthar asked. 15 standard days. Maybe more, Tharn said grimly. We do not have supplies for 15 days, Velthar said. And this hull is damaged. When night comes, the temperature will drop. We will freeze. Tae-Young listened to them list all the problems. He understood their fear. To them, this was an impossible situation. But to him, this was a challenge he knew how to handle. I will build us a shelter, he said simply. Everyone stopped talking. They stared at him. A shelter? Crix repeated. From what materials? We have nothing. Just a broken ship. We have the forest, Tae-Young said. He pointed outside. Wood, leaves, vines, and parts from the ship. I can work with that. You are in shock, Velthar said gently. The crash has confused you. Building a shelter on a death world is impossible. Tae-Young smiled slightly. Watch me. He stepped back outside. The aliens watched through the broken doors. He walked toward the tree line. A moment later, there was a loud growl from the forest. A creature emerged from the shadows. It was huge, with 6 legs and teeth like knives. Its eyes locked onto Tae-Young. Predator, Tharn shouted. He reached for a weapon, but Tae-Young did not run. He did not look afraid. Instead, he grabbed a piece of metal from the crashed ship. He banged it hard against another piece of metal. The sound was loud and sharp. It echoed across the clearing. The predator stopped. Its ears folded back. It made an uncertain sound. Then it turned and ran back into the forest. Tae-Young walked back to the ship carrying the metal pieces with him. How did you do that? Crix whispered in awe. Most predators do not like loud, unfamiliar sounds, Tae-Young explained. It works on Earth. It worked here. Ambassador Velthar watched the human with new eyes. Perhaps they had underestimated this species. Perhaps there was more to humans than the Galactic Council understood. I will start gathering materials, Tae-Young said. Yuna needs shelter by nightfall. We all do. He looked at each of them. You can stay in the ship and hope it protects you. Or you can trust me. Your choice. Then he walked back outside and began his work. The aliens watched in silence. The human moved with purpose and confidence. He did not seem afraid of this death world at all. In fact, he looked almost comfortable. That was the most terrifying thing of all. Tae-Young stood in the clearing and looked around carefully. The aliens watched him from inside the broken ship. They thought he was crazy. Maybe they were right. But crazy or not, they needed shelter before dark. He walked slowly across the crash site. His eyes studied everything. The ground, the trees, the way the wind moved. He was looking for the right spot. Not too close to the forest where predators might hide. Not too far from the ship where injured crew members could not reach it. Near the sound of water, but high enough that rain would not flood it. After 10 minutes, he found the perfect place. A slight rise in the ground about 30 meters from the ship. Good drainage. Natural wind protection from a rocky outcrop. Close to the water source he could hear running nearby. This is where we build, he said to himself. Inside the ship, Navigator Crix was watching through a camera. The human is just standing there, he said nervously. He is doing nothing. He is thinking, Ambassador Velthar said. The crystal being was recording everything with a small device. Observing, planning. We do not have time for planning, Crix said. Night comes in 6 hours. The temperature will drop to freezing. We will die! Tharn crossed his massive arms. Let the human work. I am curious to see what he does. Tae-Young returned to the ship. He found a piece of metal hull that had broken off in the crash. It was flat on one side. He bent it with his hands until it had a curved edge. Not perfect, but good enough. Now he had a makeshift shovel. He went back to his chosen spot and began to dig. The ground was hard, but he worked steadily. He dug a shallow trench in a rectangle shape, 4 meters long, 3 meters wide. The trench would be the foundation. It would keep water from flowing under the shelter. Inside the ship, Crix was watching his scanner. That task would take my species 4 hours with power tools, he said in amazement. The human is doing it in 30 minutes with a bent piece of metal. Impressive, Velthar agreed. The gravity here is 1.8 times Earth standard. Yet he moves as if it does not burden him. When the trench was done, Tae-Young wiped sweat from his face. The heat was intense. but he had worked in worse conditions during his military training. He drank some water from his emergency flask and looked toward the forest. Time to gather materials. He approached the tree line carefully. The purple-barked trees were massive, with trunks as thick as a car. But there were smaller trees, too. Young ones, dead ones. Those were what he needed. Tae-young found a dead tree that had fallen recently. The wood was still solid, not rotted. He tested its strength with his hands. Good. Very good. He pulled out a piece of sharp metal from his pocket, another piece from the crashed ship. He began to cut. It was slow work, but he had learned patience long ago. Cut, rest, cut, rest. After an hour, he had 4 long poles. Each was straight and strong. How does he know which wood to use? Velthar wondered aloud. We have scanners to test structural integrity. He just looks and knows. Death world instincts, Tharn said quietly. There was respect in his voice now. His world taught him to read nature. Tae-young carried the poles back to his site. Then he returned to the forest. He gathered vines, strong and flexible. He tested each one, pulling hard to make sure it would not break. He collected armfuls of the best vines. Next, he found large leaves. They grew on low bushes near the stream. The leaves were thick and waxy. Water would not soak through them easily. He gathered as many as he could carry. Back at the site, Tae-young began building. He placed 2 poles upright in the ground at each end of his trench. He wedged them deep and packed soil around them. Then he laid a long pole across the top, connecting the 2 uprights. He used the vines to lash everything together tightly. The frame began to take shape. An A-frame structure, simple but effective. He added more poles at angles, creating a roofline. Each joint was wrapped with vines and pulled tight. It looks like ancient human designs, Velthar said, checking historical databases. Pre-industrial construction methods. Ancient, but it works, Tharn observed. Look at how he places each piece. Nothing is random. Every decision has purpose, and 3 hours had passed. The frame was complete. Now came the hard part. Tae-young needed to make the shelter waterproof. He went to the stream and dug clay from the bank. Then he found tree sap, sticky and thick, dripping from damaged bark. He mixed the clay and sap together with water. The mixture became a paste. He painted this paste onto the large leaves. Then he began layering the leaves onto the frame, starting from the bottom and working up. Each row overlapped the one below like scales on a fish. The paste would dry and seal everything together. That is brilliant, Velthar whispered. The leaves shed water and the overlapping prevents leaks. Simple yet elegant. The sun was getting lower now. The heat was finally fading. But Tae-young did not stop. He covered the entire frame with leaves. Then he added a second layer for extra protection. On the sides, he wove smaller branches through the frame and packed them with leaves and mud. Finally, he created a door. Just an opening on one side, with a flap of thick leather-like material he had salvaged from the ship's interior. The flap could be tied open or closed. The shelter was done. Tae-young stepped back and studied his work. It was not beautiful, but it was solid. It would protect them. Inside the ship, the aliens were silent. What they had just witnessed seemed impossible. In less than 5 hours, the human had created a functioning shelter from nothing but natural materials and crashed debris. But Tae-young was not finished. He gathered dry wood and grass. He arranged them in a small pit near the shelter entrance. Then he found 2 pieces of wood, one flat, one stick-shaped. He carved a small notch in the flat piece. What is he doing now? Crix asked. I think, Velthar said slowly, he is going to make fire. Impossible, Crix said. Fire requires chemical ignition or electrical spark. He has neither. Tae-young placed the stick in the notch. He used a vine as a bow, wrapping it around the stick. Then he began to move the bow back and forth. The stick spun rapidly in the notch, creating friction. His movements were steady and rhythmic. Minutes passed. Then smoke began to rise from the wood. A small ember glowed in the notch. Tae-young carefully transferred the ember to his bundle of dry grass. He blew on it gently. The grass began to smoke. Then it caught fire. Flames leaped up. Tae-young fed small sticks to the fire, letting it grow. Soon a proper campfire was burning in front of the shelter. The aliens stared in complete shock. Most galactic species had lost the knowledge of making fire without technology thousands of years ago. To them, what Tae-young had just done was like watching someone perform magic. He made fire, Crix whispered. From sticks and string, just made fire. Velthar was recording everything frantically. The crystalline collective must see this. They will not believe it unless they see the evidence with their own eyes. Tae-young walked back to the ship. He was covered in dirt and sweat, but he was smiling slightly. The work had been good, physical and purposeful. It reminded him of camping trips with his grandfather as a child learning the old ways. "Shelter is ready," he announced. "Yuna should move there now. It will be warmer than the ship tonight." Dr. Yuna had woken up during his work. She looked at him with amazement. "Tae-young, you actually did it." "I said I would," he replied simply. He helped her stand. Her arm was still hurt, but she could walk. They walked to the shelter. Inside, Tae-young had spread soft leaves and grass on the ground as bedding. The space was small but cozy. The fire outside provided warmth and light. "Rest here," he told Yuna. "I will keep the fire going tonight." As night fell, the temperature dropped sharply. Inside the damaged ship, the aliens huddled together. Their environmental suits were working, but power was draining fast. They watched the fire outside through the cameras. Tae-young sat by the fire, feeding it wood throughout the night. He looked comfortable, at peace. The deadly world around him did not seem to trouble him at all. "We have underestimated humans," Velthar said quietly. "Severely underestimated them," Thar nodded. "I am beginning to understand why their planet is classified as a death world. It made them into this. Strong, capable, unafraid." They watched the human through the long, cold night, and they wondered what other surprises Earth's children held. Morning came with the rise of twin suns. Tae-young had stayed awake most of the night, keeping the fire alive and watching for predators. Now as light filled the clearing, he stood and stretched. His body was tired, but his mind was clear. Today he had new priorities: water and food. Dr. Yuna emerged from the shelter. She looked much better after a night of rest and warmth. "How is your arm?" Tae-young asked. "Still sore, but improving," she said. She looked around at the shelter, the fire, the organized campsite. "You did all this in one day." "My grandfather taught me well," Tae-young replied. "He survived in mountains with less." Inside the ship, the aliens were waking up. Their night had been uncomfortable. The power had continued to drain. Their environmental suits were at 60% capacity. Food supplies were limited. They had maybe 5 days of rations left if they were careful. Ambassador Velthar looked at the monitoring screens. The human was walking toward the stream they had heard yesterday. The crystal being's curiosity was stronger than caution now. Velthar activated the communication device. "Tae-young, what are you doing?" The ambassador's voice crackled through the speaker. "Getting water," Tae-young replied. "The stream water is not safe to drink directly." "But I can purify it." "And purify how?" Velthar asked. "I will show you," Tae-young said. The stream was about 50 meters from the camp. Clear water rushed over smooth rocks. Tae-young knelt and examined it. He could see small organisms swimming. The water looked clean, but appearances could deceive. He needed to filter and purify it. First, he gathered materials: sand from the stream bank, charcoal from last night's fire crushed into small pieces, gravel from nearby. He found a piece of plastic pipe from the ship wreckage and cut it into sections. He stacked the materials in layers inside a container he made from a piece of curved metal. Gravel at the bottom, then sand, then charcoal, then more sand. He poked holes in the bottom of the container. When he poured stream water through the top, it dripped out the bottom clear and clean. "Basic filtration," he explained to the camera on Yuna's communicator, knowing the others were watching. "Removes particles and some bacteria." "But is it safe?" Crix asked nervously through the speaker. "Not yet," Tae-young said. "This is step 1. For step 2, he created a solar still. He dug a hole in the ground near the shelter. He placed a clean container at the bottom. Then he poured the filtered water around the container, but not in it. He covered the hole with a clear piece of plastic he had salvaged from the ship. He placed a small rock in the center of the plastic, making it dip down toward the container. "The sun will heat the water," he explained. "It will evaporate and condense on the plastic. Pure water will drip into the container. Distillation removes everything harmful." Velthar was amazed. "You created a purification system without any technology, just understanding of natural processes." "Science is science," Tae-young said. "Technology or not, next came food." The ship's supplies would not last. They needed to find food on this planet. Tae-young walked into the forest carefully, reading the signs around him. Animal tracks in the soft dirt, droppings that showed what creatures ate, plants that looked similar to Earth species. He found a plant with thick roots. He dug one up and examined it. Firm, not slimy. No strange smell. He cut a small piece and touched it to his lips. No burning or tingling. He chewed a tiny amount and waited. No bad taste. He would test a larger amount later, but this seemed promising. He is eating unknown alien plants, Crick said in panic. They could be poisonous. He is testing carefully, Tharn observed. Small amounts. Watching for reactions. This is a method. Universal edibility test, Yuna explained to the others. Standard survival training for humans. We can eat a wide variety of organic matter if we test it properly. Tae-young found more promising plants. He marked their locations in his memory. Then he began setting traps, simple snares made from wire and vine. He placed them on animal trails he had spotted, small loops hidden in the grass. When an animal walked through, the loop would tighten. He also built a deadfall trap, heavy rocks balanced carefully over bait. When something disturbed the bait, the rocks would fall. Quick and effective. How does he know where to place these traps? Velthar asked. He reads the land, Tharn said with growing respect. He sees what we cannot. Patterns, signs, like a hunter. By afternoon, Tae-young checked his traps. One snare had caught a creature. It looked like a cross between a rabbit and a bird, with fur and small wings. It was already dead, killed quickly by the snare. Tae-young felt grateful. He never liked causing unnecessary suffering. He brought the creature back to camp. The aliens watched nervously as he prepared it. He worked efficiently. Skin removed. Internal organs separated. He examined each part, identifying what was useful and what was not. His knowledge of anatomy guided him. The liver looks healthy, he said, mostly to himself. Heart is good. Muscles are clean. This is safe meat. He prepared the meat over the fire, roasting it on sticks. The smell filled the air. Despite themselves, the aliens felt hungry. Their rations were bland protein bars. This smelled like real food. Tae-young added some of the roots he had tested earlier. He had waited hours with no bad reaction, so they were safe. He also added some local herbs that smelled like earth spices. He worked by instinct and experience. When the food was ready, he offered some to Yuna. She ate carefully, then smiled. It is good. Really good. Proteins are proteins, Tae-young said. Life uses similar building blocks everywhere. Inside the ship, Velthar made a decision. We should ask him for help. Ask a human for help? Crick sounded shocked. The collective said humans are fragile, weak. They need protection. The collective was wrong, Velthar said firmly. Look at what he has accomplished. We have been here 2 days. We are hiding in a broken ship, rationing food, watching our power drain away. He has built shelter, made fire, purified water, and hunted food. He is thriving while we are barely surviving. Tharn stood up. I will go talk to him. The massive warrior walked out of the ship and across the clearing. Tae-young looked up as the shadow fell over him. Tharn was impressive, nearly 3 meters tall and armored with natural plates. Human, Tharn said. I wish to learn from you. Tae-young smiled slightly. Call me Tae-young. And yes, I can teach you. Teach me to make these traps, Tharn said. I am a warrior. I should know how to hunt. That evening, Tae-young and Tharn walked the forest together. Tae-young showed the warrior how to read tracks, how to move quietly, how to think like both predator and prey. Tharn was a quick learner, but he struggled with the delicate work of setting snares. Your hands are strong, Tae-young said kindly, but this work needs gentle touch. Like this. He demonstrated again, his fingers working the wire with practiced ease. Tharn tried again. This time the snare held together. I did it, the warrior said with surprise and pride. You did, Tae-young confirmed. Patience and practice. That is the secret to most things. They returned to camp as darkness fell. Crix and Velthar had come out of the ship. They sat near the fire, feeling its warmth. The night was getting cold again, and their environmental suits were at 40% power. How long can humans survive like this? Crix asked quietly. Tae-young looked at the small navigator. As long as necessary. My ancestors lived this way for thousands of generations. It is in our blood. Your planet made you this way, Velthar said. Earth, a death world. It forced your species to become this. Earth is beautiful, Yuna said softly. But yes, it is harsh. Every biome has dangers. Deserts that burn, tundra that freezes, jungles full of predators, oceans with storms. We learn to adapt to all of it. Or die. Tae-young added simply. Evolution is not gentle. The aliens sat in silence thinking about this. Their own worlds had been kind, gentle. They had evolved in paradise and built technology to keep life easy. But that meant they had lost something important. They had lost the ability to truly survive. Will you teach us? Velthar asked. All of us. How to survive like you do. Tae-young looked at each of them. He saw genuine desire to learn in their eyes. Yes, he said. I will teach you. That night they all slept near the shelter. The fire burned bright, and for the first time since the crash, the aliens felt something other than fear. They felt hope. On the 5th day, Tae-young woke before dawn. Something felt wrong. The air had changed. It was heavy and still. The birds that usually sang in the morning were silent. Even the insects had stopped their buzzing. He stepped outside the shelter and looked at the sky. Dark clouds were gathering on the horizon, moving fast. The wind was picking up. His grandfather had taught him to read weather signs. This was going to be bad. Storm coming, he announced. A big one. Velthar checked the scanners in the ship. The atmospheric readings are strange, but I see no storm warnings in the data. Your instruments cannot read this, Tae-young said. But I can. We have maybe 2 days to prepare, 3 if we are lucky. Tharn trusted the humans' judgment now. What do we need to do? Make the shelter bigger and stronger, Tae-young said. Store food and water. Gather extra firewood. When this storm hits, we cannot go outside. Everyone began to work. Even Crix helped, though the small navigator struggled with the heavy labor. Tae-young showed them what to do. He was patient with their mistakes, encouraging their efforts. They cut more poles and expanded the shelter. Tae-young built sleeping platforms inside so everyone could stay off the cold ground. He reinforced the walls with extra layers of leaves and mud. He created a proper ventilation hole in the roof so smoke from the fire would not fill the shelter. Yuna and Velthar gathered firewood. Mountains of it. Tae-young showed them how to select dry wood that would burn well. They stacked it under a protective covering near the shelter entrance. Tharn and Crix helped collect water. They filled every container they could find. Tae-young taught them to cover the container so nothing would fall in. For food, Tae-young caught and prepared several more creatures. He showed the others how to smoke the meat over the fire. This would preserve it for many days. He also gathered more edible roots and plants, storing them in woven baskets he made from tough grass. Ambassador Velthar was splitting wood with an improvised axe. The work was hard and the crystal being's movements were clumsy. A piece of wood flew off and nearly hit Crix. Velthar stopped, breathing hard. This is difficult, the ambassador admitted. I have never done physical labor like this. You are doing well, Tae-young encouraged. Every species has different strengths. What matters is trying. By the end of the 2nd day, they were ready. The shelter was strong and weatherproof. Food and water were stored. Firewood was plentiful. They had even brought important items from the ship, things they would need if the ship was destroyed. That night, the ship's computer gave a warning. Structural integrity compromised. Hull will fail in extreme weather conditions. Recommend immediate evacuation. The aliens looked at each other. They had to make a choice. Stay in their broken technological shelter or trust the primitive human structure. I will go to the human shelter, Tharn said first. I have seen what Tae-young can build. I trust his work. Velthar nodded slowly. I agree. The shelter is our best chance. Crix trembled but spoke up. If we stay together, we have a better chance. I will come too. They moved into the shelter that night. It was crowded with all of them inside, but it was warm. Tae-young built up the fire and made sure everyone had a comfortable place to sleep. Thank you, Velthar said quietly, for everything you have done for us. We are crew, Tae-young said simply. We take care of each other. The storm arrived at midnight. First came the wind. It howled like a living thing, shaking the trees and tearing at the landscape. Then came the rain. Not normal rain, but sheets of water that fell like ocean waves. The sound on the shelter roof was deafening. Lightning split the sky. Thunder crashed so loud it made the ground shake. The aliens huddled together in fear. They had never experienced weather like this. Their homeworlds had gentle rain, soft breezes. This was nature at its most violent, but the shelter held. Water ran off the leaf roof just as Tae-young had designed. The frame stayed solid. The fire continued to burn, protected by the careful ventilation system. Tell us about Earth, Yuna said, trying to distract everyone from the storm. Tell them what it is really like. Tae-young added wood to the fire and began to talk. He told them about the Sahara Desert, where temperatures reached over 50 degrees and water was scarce. He told them about Antarctica, where cold could freeze flesh in minutes. He described the Amazon jungle, full of poisonous creatures and diseases. He spoke of hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis. The aliens listened in growing horror. Any one of those environments would be classified as uninhabitable, Velthar said. Yet humans live in all of them. We adapt, Tae-young said. That is what humans do best. We learn, we survive. We pass that knowledge to our children. Your planet tried to kill you, Tharn said quietly, and instead it made you stronger. Yes, Tae-young agreed. That is exactly what happened. The storm raged for 3 days. On the second day, they heard a terrible sound. The shriek of tearing metal. Through a gap in the shelter wall, they watched as the ship's hull collapsed completely. The broken vessel crumpled like paper in the wind. Crix made a small sound of distress. Everything from their civilization was gone now. They had nothing but what Tae-young had built with his hands. The shelter will hold, Tae-young said with confidence. I built it to last, and it did. Through wind that would have torn apart most structures. Through rain that corroded metal. Through cold that made the aliens shiver even with the fire. The simple shelter made from sticks and leaves and mud stood firm. During the long hours trapped inside, they talked. They shared stories. Tae-young learned about their worlds, their cultures, their fears. They learned about human history, human resilience, human determination. Why does the collective think humans are weak? Tharn asked one evening. Velthar looked embarrassed. Because we measured strength wrong. We looked at your technology, which is less advanced than ours. We saw that your bodies are not armored like Tharn's species or crystalline like mine. We assumed this meant you were fragile. You did not look at our adaptability, Yuna said. Our ability to learn and survive in any environment. Our endurance, our creative problem-solving. No, Velthar admitted. We did not. And that was a grave mistake. On the morning of the 4th day, the storm finally ended. The clouds broke apart and sunlight streamed down. Tae-young opened the shelter door and stepped outside. The clearing was changed. Trees were down. The landscape was muddy and torn. The ship was completely destroyed, just a pile of twisted metal. But the shelter stood exactly as it had been. Not a single leak, not one damaged support. The aliens emerged slowly. They looked around at the destruction, then back at the shelter. Velthar walked to where the ship had been and knelt in the mud. The ambassador's crystal body seemed to shimmer with emotion. You saved us, the ambassador said, voice thick with feeling. Your primitive methods saved us when our advanced technology failed. Not primitive, Tae-young corrected gently. Fundamental. There is a difference. Tharn placed a massive hand on Tae-young's shoulder. You have taught me more about true strength in these days than I learned in years of warrior training. Crix was trembling, but not from fear now. From excitement. I never knew that working with materials directly without computers could be so satisfying. I want to learn more. They stood together in the morning light, survivors of the storm. The aliens had learned that technology was wonderful, but knowledge was eternal. Tools could break, but skills remained. And they had learned never to underestimate the children of Earth again. 16 days after the crash, they heard the sound, a deep humming that grew louder. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked up at the purple sky. 3 ships appeared through the clouds. Rescue vessels from the Galactic Council. They circled the crash site once, twice, as if confused by what they were seeing. The largest ship landed in the clearing. The boarding ramp extended. Captain Venshar, a tall reptilian being, walked down, followed by medical officers and council officials. The captain looked around with obvious shock. The destroyed transport ship was expected. But what were these other structures? Shelters, a camp, smoke rising from a fire? Where are the survivors? Captain Venshar demanded. We detected emergency signals from this location. We are here, Captain. Ambassador Velthar stepped forward. The crystal being looked different, weathered, confident. No longer the polished diplomat who had boarded the transport weeks ago. The captain stared. Ambassador, you are alive. All of you? Yes, Velthar said. Thanks to Tae-young. Tae-young emerged from the shelter, followed by the rest of the crew. They all looked healthy, not starving, not desperate. They looked like people who had been camping, not survivors of a Death World crash. "This is impossible," one of the council officials said. "Vex 7 is classified as uninhabitable." "You should all be dead. We adapted," Tharn said simply. He stood straight and proud, no longer just a warrior, but someone who had learned new forms of strength. Captain Venshar walked slowly around the camp. A medical officer was scanning the survivors. "They are all healthy," the doctor reported in disbelief. "Better than expected. Dr. Yuna's injury has healed properly. They are well nourished and hydrated." The captain examined the shelter, touched the walls, looked at the construction with growing amazement. "Who built this?" "I did," Tae-young said. "With help from the crew." "With what tools?" the captain asked. "What equipment?" "Debris from the ship," Tae-young said. "Materials from the forest, fire, water. Basic principles." The council official who had spoken before was examining everything with a scanner. "This water purification system is crude but effective. The food storage shows understanding of preservation techniques. The shelter design is primitive but remarkably well engineered for local conditions." "Primitive," Crick said, surprising everyone by speaking up. That word keeps being used. "But these methods worked when our technology failed. Maybe we need to reconsider what primitive means." Ambassador Velthar stepped forward and held up a data device. "Captain, I have been documenting everything that happened here. I have recordings, measurements, detailed observations. This information must reach the Galactic Council." "What information?" the captain asked. "The truth about humans," Velthar said firmly. "The Crystalline Collective classified them as fragile, as needing protection. We were catastrophically wrong." The ambassador played the recordings. The council officials watched in silence. They saw Tae-young building the shelter from nothing, making fire with sticks, purifying water, hunting and preparing food, protecting the crew during the storm, teaching the other survival skills. When the recordings ended, no one spoke for a long moment. "We need to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about Death World species," the council official said slowly. "If humans can do this, what else have we misunderstood?" Captain Venshar looked at Tae-young with new respect. "Human, would you be willing to demonstrate some of your techniques before we leave? For the record?" "Of course," Tae-young said. The rescue crew watched in fascination as Tae-young showed them how to identify safe water sources, how to read weather signs, how to build a basic shelter in under an hour using only natural materials. He explained his reasoning for each decision, making it look simple. But the watching aliens realized it was not simple at all. It was sophisticated knowledge passed down through generations. "How many humans know these skills?" the captain asked. "Many," Yuna answered. "We teach survival skills in schools, in military training. Some humans do this for recreation. They go into wilderness areas just to practice these abilities." "For recreation?" the council official repeated weakly. "We call it camping," Tae-young said with a slight smile. "It helps us remember where we came from." As they prepared to leave, Crix approached Tae-young. The small navigator looked emotional. "I learned more in these 16 days than in years of academy training," Crix said. "You showed me that I am capable of more than I believed possible." "You were always capable," Tae-young said. "You just needed the chance to discover it." Tharn clasped Tae-young's arm in the warrior greeting of his species. "You have my respect, human. And my friendship. If you ever need help, call on me." "And you have mine," Tae-young replied. Ambassador Velthar was the last to say goodbye. "I am writing a new report," the crystal being said. "I am calling it Reassessing Human Capability, Evidence from Vex 7. It will be required reading at every galactic institution." "What will it say?" Tae-young asked. "The truth," Velthar said, "that humans are not weak. That death worlds do not create victims. They create survivors. They create species with remarkable abilities that the rest of the galaxy has forgotten or never learned. And that we need to learn from you, not protect you." As they boarded the rescue ship, several of the crew members looked back at the shelter. It stood solid and strong, a testament to human ingenuity. Velthar had arranged for it to be left standing as a monument. "Will anyone believe your report?" Tae-young asked Velthar as they walked up the ramp. "They will have to," the ambassador said. "I have evidence they cannot ignore. And more importantly, I have witnesses who lived through it." The ships lifted off from Vex 7, leaving the deadly world behind. But what happened there would change the galaxy. 6 months later, Tae-young stood at a podium in the great lecture hall of the Galactic Academy. The room was packed. Students from dozens of species had come to hear the human who survived VEX 7. He looked out at the audience and began to speak. My name is Tae Young. I am from Earth, a Class 5 death world. Today I want to talk to you about survival, not just staying alive, but thriving in harsh conditions. These are skills my species has developed over millions of years, and I believe they can benefit all of you. The students leaned forward, eager to learn. In the front row sat Velthar, Tharn, Crix, and Yuna. They had come to support their friend and teacher. After the lecture, the academy director approached Tae Young. We would like to create a new program, the director said. Death World Adaptation Sciences. Would you be willing to help design the curriculum? Tae Young thought about his grandfather, who had taught him to respect nature and learn from it. He thought about the survivors on VEX 7 who had discovered their own strength. He thought about all the species in the galaxy who had forgotten how to survive without technology. Yes, he said, I would be honored. The galaxy was learning. Humans were no longer seen as weak newcomers needing protection. They were recognized as what they truly were, the children of a harsh world who had turned challenges into strengths. And in lecture halls, workshops, and survival courses across the galaxy, aliens learned to build fire from sticks, to purify water with sand and charcoal, to read weather in the behavior of birds, to construct shelter from natural materials. They learned the ancient skills that humans had never forgotten, skills that had saved lives on VEX 7, skills that might save lives again. Back on VEX 7, the shelter still stood. Winds and rain could not destroy it. It remained as a reminder, a monument to human capability, to adaptability, to the will to survive, and to the simple truth that the aliens had learned from watching a death worlder build a survival shelter from nothing on a deadly world. Sometimes, the old ways are the best ways. The end.